This is TW Wrestling Talk here, coming off of the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. And before I get going with that, I wanna clear something up. Last week I said that this was going to be the 1 year anniversary celebration of the beginning of TW Wrestling Talk, but in all actuality, I had the date wrong. I was for some reason I was thinking it was a week earlier than it was, so I got to give myself one of those. So yeah, that actually next week will be the start of that. But in other news, regarding this channel, TW Sports Talk is going to be starting up soon. So the name change is going to come eventually on the channel. So don't be alarmed when you see that. TW Wrestling Talk will still be, there'll still be videos that will be, clearly highlighted by what is, evident in the title and the picture, on how to tell apart, what video is what. That's those sports videos are starting up soon. Not related to WWE, but I encourage you to check them out if you're interested in sports or Philadelphia sports or whatever. But onto the thoughts segment here of TW Wrestling, thoughts of Extreme Rules 2013. Overall, I'd have to say the pay-per-view was a slight disappointment. I had pretty decent expectations of this pay-per-view, and they fell a little short, mostly because of some stupid finishes, and the card was missing a couple things I think could have been better served on it. Starting with the Fandango and Chris Jericho match. It was evident that Jericho needed to get the win back, and the fact that it came in like a 5-minute match where Fandango he just didn't show much at all. Just goes to show you that there's just not much substance to Fandango. And last week I was talking about how in some article I read, someone claimed that Fandango needed to win again, and sorry, I guess you didn't get your wish, and I don't blame Chris Jericho for beating Fandango. As I don't think Fandango deserves to beat Chris Jericho in the first place. That was I didn't see the pre-show, and I'm rushing around before the pay-per-view as it is. So it's silly that I just think just put it on the card, on the main card. Don't, instead of wasting time with other things, you have time that you can just put the pre-show match, which seems to feature the Miz a lot. Just put that on the card. I don't understand, why they have to have this pre-show stuff. And that was versus Cody Rhodes. I don't understand why Cody Rhodes and Sandow aren't together. I mean, they were a pretty good tag team, and Sandow not being on the pay-per-view, it seems, whatsoever, then I don't know what the deal is there. But I think Rhodes and him are a good tag team, and I think they should use them more often. Second match, I might get the order a little out of order here, but Dean Ambrose. Let's just go with both Shield matches here. Kill two birds with one stone. Ambrose won the U.S. title like we expected. Looked pretty good, but as I said last week on TW Wrestling Talk, I think that what the Shield have proven, the teams that they have beaten since debuting in the WWE, I think they're all kind of above the U.S. title level. Now with the tag team championships, it's a little different, because Kane and Daniel Bryan, they're obviously at they're good level talents, who you wouldn't see at this point go for the United States Championship, or you know, if they were going to go for singles gold, it'd be the World Championship. And I think that's how it should, the World or the WWE Championship, and I think that's how it should be with the members of the Shield if they're going to go for a singles title. I think the U.S. Championship, I think Ambrose is above that level. And as I said before, I would have rather seen Rollins and Ambrose be the guys that go for the tag team gold, and then maybe down the road have Reigns go for like the World Heavyweight Championship or whatever. But I'm not. That's a little bit more of a preference. But nevertheless, Ambrose is U.S. champion, and of course, as we expected, the team of Reigns and Rollins have become the tag team champions, and that finally Kane and Daniel Bryan have lost the titles to worthy opponents. A worthy team of having the titles, and it makes it interesting for those guys. The Shield, although it just the whole U.S. title thing, I feel like Ambrose and the Shield in general were at a higher level than that, and I feel like him going for a title that's a singles title that's like fourth on the kind of the list of prestige, to me is it seems like a little bit of a step down, but we'll see what all comes out of it in the long run. Now there's a strap match, and here's where the endings I'm not quite endings of some of these matches did not go too well in my opinion. The concept of this strap match was interesting, I'd say, and the match was somewhat interesting early on, but I think it just wasn't executed well in the end. At the end of the match, it was a little silly because they were saying how during the match, if your momentum is slowed or whatever, if it's halted, then the whole sequence of lights didn't then they get canceled out. Well, here Sheamus, he touches the three lights, and then his momentum is kind of halted. And this is what I didn't understand. You know, Mark Henry kind of picked it, or I don't know if Sheamus went for a move, and like Mark Henry like kind of picked him up, and a few seconds later Sheamus countered, into a brogue, but it didn't make sense to me because it seemed like his momentum was pretty halted, and there were points earlier on in the match where the sequence would be stopped, would be waved off by the referee because, even quicker than this. It's as if because even though his momentum was slowed or stopped, just because Mark Henry didn't actually pull a move off on him because the move was reversed, that the sequence wasn't stopped, but his momentum was still obviously stopped. So this was a bit of a failure to me, and it just looked a little inconsistent in how the referee didn't wave it off. Kind of went against the logic of earlier occurrences in the match. So to me that was a bit of a failure, and it's a shame. Now out of that little stemming from that match was the Orton and Big Show match, Extreme Rules. It was a pretty decent match. Some decent moments, a couple decent spots. Big Show kind of using a ladder set up on two chairs, like kind of like a table, and Orton rolling off, and when Big Show, tried to come down from the top rope on it. There's an RKO on the chair. There's some decent moments in this match, and of course, it's notable for ending with the punt. and it was you saw after a second RKO on the chair, um, Orton kind of like waiting, and I'm thinking, here comes the punt, and surely enough, he went back to his corner, winded up, and then delivered with a punt.
Oh my
and
God!
and it was great to see, certainly, and it was a nice moment. Although I would have thought that Orton would turn heel with the punt. I thought that's when he was going to bring it back, when he would turn heel, but I don't know. Maybe this is foreshadowing his heel turn a little bit down the road. I don't know, but just because now if he just used the punt, that maybe he'll start using it more often, and that move really came to surface. I think when he was really at his peak. You know, later 2008 into 2009 as a heel. So yeah, I mean that was interesting. But another false or not a false, another bad finish was in the I Quit match between Jack Swagger and Alberto Del Rio. Now, first of all, this match was a little comical in some ways. I mean, you had the this referee constantly asking the guys, mainly in the beginning, if they want to quit. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's like, one guy would do one move on the other. Hey, you want to quit? Um, you know, one guy would hit another guy in the wrist against the steel stage. What do you say, Jack? You want to quit? Hey, you want to quit? Do you want to quit? And it was like, dude, like let them fight. We're like 30 seconds into the match. Um, it was ridiculous. The referee just mainly in the beginning, and it was at one point I think he even mistakenly he went up to Del Rio to ask if he wanted to quit, but he mistakenly said, Ricardo, do you want to quit? I think So I mean, throughout the match, it was just kind of a joke. I was just like joking with my friends. He starts asking random people if they want to quit, and it was ridiculous. How often the ref seemed to ask these, and I thought, normally in an I Quit match, at least in the past, they have, maybe like good ones like The Rock against Mick Foley back in the day, or Mankind, and I think it's more intense when they ask each other if they want to quit, but that's just me. Um, now, this match is notable for its false ending. At one point, now see, before the match, they said Lulu and Garcia made clear the only way to win is to make your opponent say the words "I quit." Well, for some stupid reason, um, Ricardo Rodriguez is like debating throwing in this towel. I mean, this isn't boxing, first of all, and they made it clear it's an I Quit match. Um, I don't. So just because your manager wants to throw a towel, that shouldn't have any implication on the match. That shouldn't even be part of it. It's an I Quit match. It's supposed to be let the guys fight, um, and make the other guy say I quit. It's not. I don't understand where this towel concept comes in. Leave that to boxing or whatever. Not especially this. This kind of defied the logic a little bit of the match. Um, but instead, the referee's back is turned, and at one point Zeb Coulter takes the towel and throws it into the ring, and the ref thinks that Ricardo threw the towel, of course, and so the ref calls the match and calls it as Jack Swagger wins. Now, of all the finishes like this in the past, these heel heat finishes where the heel gets the win. This other referee comes out, and again, this never happens. In all the times of the past where like an ending like this has happened, this never happens. Referee comes out and tells the referee who who just can't, who loves to say I quit more than, or loves to ask people so much whether they want to quit or not. He tells the referee that Zed threw the towel, and then they go to this instant replay, screen near the timekeeping area, and again they never do this ever, and then they never do instant replay. So now that they did something like this, it only makes sense that with all the screwy finishes they have in this company, it would make sense that they do it more often. But I don't think, the bottom line is they're going to do this stuff when they want to, and it just makes it silly, and it just lacks logic and consistency. So,
I agree.
so I mean, the ref changes, then the ref changes the decision, restarts the match, blah blah. And I'm thinking, oh great, now Del Rio's gonna win, and surely enough, he ended up winning. Um, so it was, to me, it was a wasted opportunity. It was another one of those, just another one of those stupid moves by WWE. You go back to Raw. Who did they want to see face Big E Langston? What was the vote? It was like 65% in favor of Jack Swagger to 35% of Del Rio. That tells me something. That tells me people don't give a crap about Del Rio. For the most part. That tells me about 2 out of 3 people, would rather see Swagger compete than, against that big guy than Del Rio compete against a big guy like Big E Langston. So it just goes to show you, there's, like, if it was like a 47 to 53% still in Jack Swagger's favor, maybe it makes a little more sense to have Del Rio win. But still, when you have a baby face getting outvoted and something like that, 65 to 35%, that goes to show me that, dude, people don't really want to see Del Rio compete against, Big E Langston, a new talent. So, and to have him win, to have Del Rio win here the way they did, it's just silly. And to have them defy, the kind of logic that they defied here with the company, when they never ever have a referee come out and all the other screwy finishes that occur, it's just stupid, and it's really unfortunate. Um, so they dropped the ball there with that one, certainly. Um, Now the next and final stupid finishing match. Well, it was going decent. I'd have to say. Ryback was looking good against John Cena in the WWE Championship match, and ironically, I thought this match was going to be last, but from what I seem to have heard, people seem to care. People seem to care more about the Triple H and Lesnar match. I mean, I guess they were more excited about that, but I would have thought that the Cena and Ryback match was going to be the main event, but it wasn't. Ryback's biggest match of his career thus far, but anyhow, Ryback was looking pretty decent. I'd have to say. He had some, he was controlling the match mostly. Um, and I mean, Cena had a few moments, but he did not do much else other than, as offensively than his same 5 moves of doom, as people call them. And people criticize you. You want to criticize me for saying that, but that's ultimately the easiest way to put it.
Go ahead, hater.
I mean, it's the same 5 moves we all know very well, and you can't deny it. How Cena will, that chain of moves will get interrupted, and then he'll pick up right where he left off, and it looks really stupid. That's that. But there were a couple interesting moments in this match. Certainly, a couple couple table breakings. Um, at one point it went into now. See, I criticize this match a little though, because again you have this whole Achilles injury thing apparently, um, and it wasn't really played up very well because Ryback didn't attack Cena's Achilles at all. It seemed he at one point he dragged John Cena towards the ring pole, put his leg against it, and went to hit it with a steel chair, but Cena kicked it out of the way. That was about the only time that I saw Ryback go for, try to hurt Cena's Achilles heel further. So that didn't totally make sense to me. Um, but throughout eventually the match went into the crowd towards the timekeeper area, and they're battling through the crowd, and they're doing some pretty interesting stuff. Eventually, Cena, there's a table set up, and Cena kind of leaps up to this area where the crowd is, towards the railing, and does like a leg drop from there, and I mean, oh my god! I give Cena pulled a little something out there that was a little brutal, but Ryback was still able to get up, and and then they go up to the stage and they start fighting on the stage. Cena has a fire extinguisher. Him and that silly, I don't understand. It's like, what the hammer is to Triple H, the fire extinguisher is like slowly becoming for John Cena. I mean, it's getting a little silly with the whole fire extinguisher and Cena thing. It seems like they try to make comedy out of it every time, but they're fighting on the stage, and Ryback eventually picks up Cena off towards more of the right side of the stage if you're looking at it from the ring. And then Ryback picks John Cena up, and he carries him into the he rams him into the wall of the Titantron at the bottom. Runs and they run through it, and there's some sparks, slight explosion. That was awesome. So, but both guys get run through. You can't see, they get run through the wall on the stage, and now you can't see where they are. But obviously, they're like King or Cole, or one of them's like, where are they? And it's like, well, they're probably within, a couple inches of where they just went through the wall. So, I don't, a little strange there on their part, but, now this is where the ending gets a little stupid, because they're showing replays of what had just happened, and, for a minute, and then all of a sudden, they show the guys laying, I guess at this point kind of backstage behind, where they went through the wall, and they show them, just laying there, kind of incapacitated. And this is where the match kind of, we're kind of left in the dark here. Because you at least show a referee counting down to 10. You don't just, start wrapping John Cena up on the stretcher and whatnot and act like the match is over when you didn't at least actually do an official count. So, this was like a third silly ending to a match. And you could hear the fans booing, because they knew that this was kind of a rip-off ending. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I felt when this match ended. It was like, oh, this is kind of a rip-off. At least count to 10, and if neither guy gets up, then it's a draw. It's as simple as that. That's all they have to do. It's like they have to evade the fact that, that there's, they have to evade an official conclusion in the match. So that was a little silly on their part. And, it was unfortunate. It made the match a little less legitimate. And now, and also to note, it's like they spend several minutes showing the guys wrap up John Cena on this stretcher and all this and that. They don't even show Ryback at this point. Does Ryback get put on a stretcher? Does he get carried away by They barely even show Ryback. Once they start showing Cena really getting wrapped up on the stretcher, they don't show Ryback. And throughout the night, they don't even talk about, like, throughout the rest of the night, they mention a couple times, like, we'll have to wait and see what happens with John Cena. We hope, John Cena is all right. They're getting medical, I'm gonna give him, and they don't even talk about Ryback in this breath. They just kind of say how, Cena's going to the hospital, and we'll try to update the status on John Cena later on, and at some point, and they don't even mention the status of Ryback. I mean, it didn't make sense, and I don't know. It was a little. In that regard, it's like, oh well, geez, we're supposed to feel all bad for John Cena now, and when both guys went through the thing, and it's a little stupid, if you ask me. So now that would bring us to the main event. But it was decent. It was a decent way to end the show. A show that had several kind of stupid finishes. My only criticism with this match is that it seems like, the concept of this match seemed, their approach to it seemed to be more like an approach they would have for a Hell in a Cell match. The two guys are going to destroy each other and, inside a steel structure, and rather than escape it. The way they made it sound, it seemed like they wouldn't, they didn't want to escape. It wasn't something they wanted to escape. It was a structure that they wanted to destroy each other inside of. And they kind of did somewhat, but then at different points, it's like they wanted to escape the cage. And, I guess they did that just to kind of justify them having a steel cage match, but it seemed like what they were going for more here was a Hell in a Cell match, at least with their approach, but I guess maybe they figured, Triple H was in a Hell in a Cell last year against Undertaker at WrestleMania, so I guess they figured, oh, let's do a steel cage match instead, so that's what they did there. Now, it was interesting. It had a few interesting moments. At one point, Brock Lesnar, pretty early on, jumps into the cage, like Triple H gets out of the way, and he rams his knee, his uncovered knee. Maybe that's why he didn't have knee pads on. But, he rams his knee into the cage, and, it seems like the rest of the match, his knee kind of bothers him, and, Lesnar's screaming in agony. And, yeah, maybe not like that. Maybe not like at WrestleMania when he was fired up and screamed like that, but, so this it was kind of working against him a little bit, but, and Paul Heyman, it's at a couple points tries to help out, and eventually he gets pedigreed. At one point, interestingly, Triple H goes to the top corner and smiles, and he, from the top of the steel cage, he whips out this hammer that was painted, silver, like the bars at the top of the steel cage. So, it was a little funny because he just, it's like a camouflage hammer, but eventually this works against him, and Brock Lesnar ends up nailing Triple H with the hammer. So, it kind of worked against him anyway, but, the match ended, Lesnar pulled off a couple F5s, and the second one, seemed to be enough for Brock to pin him. So, it was a decent match back and forth, I'd have to say. And, my guess is that, given that Lesnar kind of hurt his knee or whatever, it seemed like that they are going to have him maybe that's kind of a way to write him off TV a little bit. Um, have him, have him say that he's got a bit of a problem to heal up, and so I guess he'll be done for a little bit. Yeah, I think he's done for a little bit. Um, but nevertheless, I'd have to say this was a job well done by the two guys. So, so yeah, I mean, good stuff here. In this match, I'd have to say decent ending. Um, Lesnar walking off with the win. Triple H kind of walking off looking a little disappointed, but um, it'll be interesting to see how they proceed with this on Raw. What Triple H has to say if he's on, and what either guy has to say, what Paul Heyman has to say, as usual. Yeah. Yes. And it'll just be interesting to see how they perhaps close it, because I think as far as this whole thing goes, I think we're done with the Triple H and Brock Lesnar thing. And I guess Brock Lesnar thinks we're done with it too. So and I think we're done with this post Extreme Rules edition TW Wrestling talk, as we get on with it here. So yes, as I mentioned earlier, this pay-per-view fell a little short of my expectations. I might give it a 3-star rating. I don't know, 3.25. So yeah, I mean it was it was good to see the Shield win new titles, but disappointed in some of the finishes. Nice to see the punt back, and a decent match there. And nice to see a good ending with Triple H and Brock Lesnar, it seems. So, with that in mind, that'll wrap things up here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there are TW Sports Talk videos to come, and a slight change to the name of the channel to come. So whenever that stuff happens, don't be too alarmed. There will be TW Wrestling Talk videos still. There will be this one year anniversary celebration of TW Wrestling Talk next week. And of course, there's going to be an edition of TW Wrestling Talk popping up in the next couple days as we come off the episode of Raw after Extreme Rules. So thanks for tuning in as always, and just continue to tune into whatever this channel brings.